I'll start this, but just when you begin, just take a look at that.
Gotcha. Do you want me still to read? Or maybe have him read his version of that?
You can just read it from my version if you want.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cool.
Right. So we're going to be opening up into Hosea 1. And we're going to be looking at 1 and 3. So are you in there? Okay. So you can go ahead and read the highlighted. Hosea 1:1 and 2. 1 and 2.
1 and 2?
Yes.
On this page over here, Jim?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's right. The Lord gave this message to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the years of Uzziah, Jamoth, Ahaz, and Hezekiah were kings of Judah, and Jeroboam, son of Jehoash, was king of Israel. Thanks for making me do that.
You're welcome.
When the Lord first began speaking to Israel through Hosea, he said to him, "Go and marry a prostitute, so that some of her children will be conceived in prostitution. This will illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning against the Lord and worshiping other gods."
Okay. And do you want to read chapter 3, verses 1?
And the Lord said to me, "Go again, love a woman who is loved by another man and is an adulteress, even as the Lord loves the children of Israel, though they turn to other gods and love cakes of raisins."
And chapter verse 2?
And verse 2?
Yes.
So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and a omer and a lithek of barley.
Okay, so the first section that we read in chapter 1, did anything stick out to either of you?
It was deep.
There you go.
I mean, honestly, if I were to read something like that, I would immediately think like, okay, what the heck is going on? Why is God calling a man to marry a prostitute? And even with an explanation of like, this is how Israel has, like treated God in its relationship with him, I still think like, this is a bit extreme.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely calls his prophets to extreme things of obedience, extreme measures of obedience, and he called Hosea here to marry a prostitute. That's kind of like, they're going to be unfaithful, but I want you to marry them anyway.
Yeah.
So that really stuck out to me. And then in chapter 3, did anything stick out to either of you?
Well, I still have one for number 1.
Oh, what? Go ahead.
God calls, when he's talking to his prophets, they do extreme acts, and so, like, what's another extreme act is, I'll just say, like, when Jonah ran away, like, he tossed himself in the water, like, that wasn't an act that God said, but, like, and he got swallowed by the fish, so that's just, like, there's things like that the prophets go through, and so just seeing what Hosea has to go through, like, he says, go and marry a prostitute, and what do you think Hosea is thinking, Like, I can't remember off the top of my head what other prophets are, what they went through, but this would be an act that, I just find it fascinating that he would go that far to even really, but even then God chose this person to do that, and he would do that, but, and then it also says, and had children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord. So how they forsake him is committing great whoredom, which is all the other false idols, false gods. Yeah. And it's also showing God's faith. He was faithful, but they're not faithful.
Yeah.
That's what's really the thing that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I look at chapter 3 too, even verse 2, just like hit me.
Yeah.
Because when I think about a man who's committed his life to another woman, the thought, and I know this, obviously we're outside of this culture, and that, not to say that it made it right, but it was happening so often back there, but the thought that this one verse, so I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and 5 bushels of barley. Like, there was a cheap price on this woman. And that's like your wife.
And he had to buy her back.
Yeah.
Which is more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in this the prostitution, it just shows that what has sin done to the image of God.
Yeah.
Which is everything to God, but in the world, they're seen as the value, right? The worth of someone is 15 shekels, whatever that means.
Mm.
That's really sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's
It's heartbreaking.
Okay, so what is the big picture of this? Of the two sections that we read in chapter 1 and chapter 3, what's the big picture? What does the story represent?
God's faithfulness.
By who?
By
Who represents that?
who is being faithful?
Yeah.
Hosea, in obeying what God's commands are, and then you see the unfaithfulness
Yeah, I
of
think.
God really
Yeah.
extending on just the topic of faithfulness.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how it says this will illustrate, like, at least in my version, I don't know what it says in your
What
version,
verse?
but in chapter 1, the second verse, this will illustrate how Israel has acted like a prostitute by turning against the Lord and worshiping other gods. And then in chapter 3, verse 1, it says, go and love your wife again, even though she commits adultery with another lover. This will illustrate that the Lord still loves Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really cool how the Lord gives us the representation of the whole story, that you're going to be unfaithful, but I'm going to love you anyway, regardless of that. I think that's, and just thinking, I want you guys both to close your eyes and think. You're getting married to somebody, you're committing your life to this person, but the person you're about to marry, you know that they're going to cheat on you numerous times. You know they're physically going to share their body with another person, but you're going to marry them anyway. Like, that's what Hosea was called to do, knowing that. And that, even bigger than that, that's what God knows we're going to do.
Yeah.
He knows we're going to cheat on him, and we're going to put idols before him and worship other things without knowing it, so unconsciously worshiping that. Like, he knows this. That's why he bought us not with 15 pieces of silver, but with the blood of Christ.
Amen.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, so one more question. How can we learn from Gomer? Because a lot of times when we look at this story in Hosea, we focus on God's faithful love to his unfaithful Israelites, his unfaithful people. But what can we learn from Gomer here? Any ideas?
It's a good question.
I got one. You
Go
want to
ahead.
go first?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't want to stray away from this text, but doesn't it say later that even then when he bought her back, she still went voluntarily? Well, because all of us are Gomer. We're all Gomer, at one point.
Yeah.
Because we said we believed in God,
Mm-hmm.
but then, our actions and our life did not prove that or say that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But even then, we still see from the outside in that God was always waiting while we were committing abominations.
Yeah. Reminds me of the prodigal son, right?
Yep.
Just the latent acts, yet the father was so willing to give up his inheritance, knowing that it was going to be wasted in its entirety. But that price didn't matter, right? It was given up, it was abused. But when we came back through repentance, when the prodigal son came back and repented and saw the true joy and value in knowing the Father, that's when the Father was joyful, right?
Yeah.
Beyond anything.
Yeah.
To see his son return back home.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gomer. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I think like he said, we're all Gomer in one way or another. We too can choose to love other loves, and when our main love should be Jesus, we choose other loves all the time: love of power, self, control, recognition, money. All these temptations in the world, they can they're seductive, and we can fall into the trap of being like Gomer and being faithless to God.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think we can learn a lesson from her by just remembering her and just remembering God's, in turn, faithful love to her. But yeah,
Time and time again.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, good time with that. Shit.
Look at that, 10 minutes long.
Preach.